Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Middle Earth Time Machine Theater. I'm Kara. This is my friend Gabe. Now, while we are all dressed up in costume, we are not the stars of the show. All of you get a chance to dress up as our characters today and play a part in our story. Our first set of characters live in the enchanted forest.
You're going to pull it right after this.
There's a ton of little forest creatures you can be. You can be a butterfly, you can be a turtle. And can anyone guess what this little creature is? It's a stinky banana. Nah, it's a skunk. So if you're actually feeling cute and adorable, and maybe a little stinker, you can be a forest creature. Now we'll make our way down to the heart of the forest, in a tall castle covered in vines. Inside the castle lived good King Rowan and his woodland knights. King Rowan was a cloak of golden green with a crown on top of his head and a horn, which he used to call his mama. Kidding. He used that to call his knights. Tried, trusted, and true. All the woodland knights would protect the kingdom from all enemies. So if you're feeling brave, you can be a knight. The steel and might are all you need. You need magic and wisdom. High atop Crystal Mountain and the Crystal Palace lives the Crystal Princesses. These princesses wear cloaks of many gowns of many colors, and they have magic wands. When they swirl and just so, even you can almost feel the good magic. Can everyone feel the good magic out there today? Now we'll make our way down to the dungeons. Can everyone say dun dun dun? In the dungeons live the trolls. The trolls have swords and shields just like the knights, but they don't do anything good with them. They run around poking their knees and piercing people in the belly. But you wonder how they got so wicked? Their leader is the serpent. The serpents give poison to the trolls to drink, but not one that makes you sick or die. This poison makes you a little bit more wicked, a little bit more scary, and even a little bit smelly. But we all know you're not wicked, scary, or smelly. But if you have a mischief maker in your family, maybe you guys would like to be trolls. Those are all our characters that you can play in our show. Now I have two announcements. Number one, our shows are not for the small ones. Grown-ups can join in as well. We have parts for you to play. You can be the king, serpent, and you have mom and dad make great trolls. But even furry friends can even join in on the fun. Number two, when I count to 3, run over to your favorite costume trunk. But please do not grab or pick up anything from the trunks or the props. Me or my friend Gabe will come over to help you so you guys can get dressed quickly and efficiently. Now, everyone put the pinky up. Can you promise me I will not grab or pick up any props or costume until I get help? Can you say I promise? All right. On the count of 3, ready? 1, 2, 3. Run over to your favorite costume trunk and we'll help you as soon as we get there. Everyone, please step down from the steps unless you're taking photos. And everyone, please return to the costume chest from where you guys got your costumes. Our show's about to begin, but we can't stop without a king. Does anyone out there want to be the king?
That's how it was for me when I was long shot. Because they would give me tips. They
Our story this year is The Legend of the Unicorn. Can anyone tell me what the blue thing here in the middle is? It is a water, but what body?
Here, go sit. Sit down. Sit down.
River is close. Yes, correct. It's a lake, but not any ordinary lake. A lake so clear you can see all the way down to the bottom. And all who drink this water are truly happy. But all of the kingdom love this lake, except for one creature. Can anyone guess who? Just shout it out. The trolls, yes, as well as the wicked leader, the serpent. So one night down in the dungeon, the serpent and the trolls were pacing back and forth, trying to come up with a plan. They scratched their heads, they scratched their noses, and they scratched their tummies because they're feeling a bit hungry. But then the serpent said, "Aha! Trolls, gather round! I have a wicked plan." As all the trolls gathered around and lowered their heads and began to whisper. And the lower the heads went, the more wicked the plan became. Lower and lower and lower until they're practically laying on the dungeon floor. And then they all jumped up and let out a blood-curdling howl. Late that evening, under the cover of darkness, the serpent and the trolls tiptoed down to the water's edge. The serpent stuck the two fangs into the water and started pumping it full of poison. The trolls helped stir in the poison. The water started to bubble and churn, boil and roll until it's no longer a crystal clear lake, but ugly, oily, polluted water. The trolls and the serpent jumped up, let out a wicked laugh, and decided to do a silly dance all the way back down to the dungeon. The next morning, the animals yawned and stretched and skipped on down to the water's edge. We have a beautiful butterfly, a flamboyant peacock, and a sly fox. They all bent down and scooped into the water up into their palms. But then, the fox jumped up. And what did the fox say? The fox said, "Wait, this water smells funny." The animals bent down again and started to smell the water. And then they double check, they see the skunk. The skunk put their hands on their hips and say, not me. There was a butterfly that stood up and said, wait, I recognize the smell. That's the smell of the serpent's poison. She captured me last week and I flew away. The animal said, oh no, what are we going to do? The serpent has poisoned our lake. Then the peacock said, follow me.
Yeah, we're good.
The animals went into the forest. They had to duck down below, low hanging branches. Looked like they got lost. Then they had to hop over large logs and run away from the occasional swarm of bees. Until finally, they came across a giant oak door with a castle covered in vines. They knocked on the giant oak doors 3 times. Out from the doors came the brave King Rowan and his woodland knights. The king says, hello. The animals started to bow. And the king said, no, you don't need to bow. Until I say go. Keep bowing. Okay, go. The animals started hopping up and down, saying, Your Majesty, the serpent has poisoned our lake. Upon hearing this, the knights raised their swords and let out an angry roar. The king said, now, everyone, there's no need to roar. See this horn around my neck? It was given to me when I was a young prince. And it said if I play the horn in the right tune and hour of greatest need, I could summon the unicorn. The king took a deep breath, clapped the horn to his lips, and began to play. The animals and the knights ran into the forest, looking for the unicorn. They looked high in the trees. They looked low in the bushes. They looked under the left foot, under the right foot, and they started spinning around, trying to find her. But still, no sight. So they stumbled their way back to the king, who was wrapped in blue. And the king said, did you find her? They shook their heads no. Well, if you haven't found her, then I know some powerful wise princesses up on Crystal Mountain. Follow me. The king and the knights, along the animals, started to climb all the way up the Crystal Mountain, over every crack and crevice. But the higher they climbed, the slipperier it got. They started sliding to the right. They slid to the left. And they slid back until they got fallen off a giant cliff. And they screamed. But then, the fox said, why don't we just take the stairs? Everyone put their hands to the palms of their hand and follow the fox up the winding stairs. Now, our heroes have been traveling for 3 days without any water. Slowly, their legs began to wobble, their tongues coming out of their mouth, and then one by one, they collapsed on the stairs. Oh no, is this the end of our story? But the little skunk still had a little fight in him. He mustered up the courage to go up the last few set of steps, up to the princess's door, and knocked on it. Out from the doors came the princesses. But when they saw the skunk, they screamed and started to run down the mountain. The skunk chasing suit. Soon, the princesses saw their friends and froze. They lifted their wands up high, started to spiral them around. And then the clouds went white to gray, gray to black, and flash of thunder, flash of lightning, out from the clouds came rain. The animals and the knights along with the king started to gulp it up to the point of hiccups. They all jumped up and cheered. Then the queen, Queen Evening Star, came up to the king. And said, why are you down on my mountain? The king said, great news, my queen. The serpent has poisoned the lake, leaving us nothing to drink. The queen wiggled her wand and said, don't fret, for I was taught how to whistle, attuned by the unicorn, that if I play it just right, I can summon her. The queen took a deep breath, stand on her tippy toes, and puppy yours. Not that right. The knights and everyone decided to run down the mountain and look for the unicorn. They ran to the north. They ran to the south. They ran to the northeast, southwest, to the north, south, east, west. There's no direction at all. And they started running around in circles yelling, unicorn, where are you? But they still have yet to find her. With their heads hanging low, they came back to the queen. And she asked, did you find her? They all shook their heads no. But then, all the princesses raised their wand.
And together the princesses said, do not despair. Perhaps the unicorn is down at the lake purifying the water as we speak. We must go down to meet her there because that is our only hope. And so everybody followed the queen and her princesses down Crystal Mountain into a dark and ancient place known as the Enchanted Forest. Now, the forest is usually a lovely place to be. However, it seemed rather gloomy this day. In fact, it was so dark they couldn't see 2 feet in front of them, and our heroes started bumping into one another. The princesses had to lift their wands up high, and a soft golden light shone through the darkness. But now that our heroes could see, the trees were angry. For the trees had been drinking the serpent's poison up through their roots, and they dropped thorns and thistles before everybody's feet. Everyone had to tiptoe carefully over each thorn and thistle, but once in a while they step on a spike and jump 6 feet in the air. Don't forget to say, ouch! Ow, my tootsies! But soon, they were too tired to hop. All they could do was drag their legs along the ground. Their knees wobbled. Their tongues rolled out of their mouths. They didn't think they were going to make it, when suddenly they stumbled out of the forest. And there it was, their lake. But just nothing more than an oily, polluted puddle. They all sat down around the water's edge and were so sad that day, they began to cry. Their cries were so loud that the serpent heard it back in her dungeon. The serpent smiled at her trolls. She said, trolls, we did it. They're too weak to fight. All we have to do is dunk their heads in the poison long enough for them to drink it, and the whole kingdom will be trolls like you. So the serpent led her minions all the way around the lake, over to the other side, where they crouched behind some bushes and prepared their sneak attack. But the serpent made a terrible mistake. She had crouched behind ragweed bushes, and there's one thing that makes a troll and a serpent sneeze. It's ragweed. They started sneezing up a storm. Well, I do believe it was this fellow right here noticed he was getting sneezed on. He stood up and pointed his sword at the bush. He said, hark, do you hear that bush over there? That bush is sneezing. But I don't think that's a sneezing bush. I think that's an ambush. Quickly to the other side of the lake. Everyone jumped up and ran over to the other side of the lake. And they got into battle formation. The king and the knights stood right here in the front before the princesses. The princesses stood behind the knights, and the animals stood behind the princesses. The king said, knights, here's what we're going to do. Get down on the ground and start crawling towards those sneezing bushes. Pretend like you're looking for 4-leaf clovers. So the knights started to crawl. The serpent and the trolls put their fingers under their noses to hold in their sneezes. But their lungs started filling with air. Bigger and bigger and bigger they grew until the serpent, the trolls, and the rest of the audience let out the biggest sneeze you ever heard. Isn't it? The knights were blown over onto their backs, with their arms and legs wiggling in the air, covered in troll buggies. The serpent and the trolls jumped up and lifted their swords, ready to attack. The princesses lifted their wands. They took one step forward and shot gold lightning out at the serpent and her minions. The trolls and the serpent began to shiver and shake, shrivel and shrink, smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, until they were the size of baby carrots. Where the king and the knights got back up on their feet and dusted themselves off, but they looked around confused because they couldn't find the trolls. They were too small. So they turned to the princesses. They said, "Princesses, we don't mean to be rude, but can you make them just a wee bit bigger? We can't really fight something we cannot see." The princesses wiggled their wands again, but were so tired and thirsty. The spell grew out of control, but the serpent and her minions grew taller and taller till they were taller than trees. And a great slow-motion battle began! Steel clashed against steel. Sparks flew. Remember, we're not actually trying to kill anybody today. The forest animals jumped up and began playing dramatic guitar music. The princesses cast spells. They swirled their wands in circles. They swirled their wands in triangles. They swirled their wands in hearts. But it was no use. The princesses started running out of magic. Their wands drooped down to their sides. Our heroes were far too tired. The serpent and her minions were far too tall. The serpent and the trolls knocked the swords out of the knights' hands. The knights dropped their swords and fell to their knees. They lifted their shields, preparing for the final blow. But the trolls froze. They looked into the shields and saw something they'd never seen before. Their own reflections. The trolls thought they were absolutely gorgeous. Until now, they realized how terrifying they were, and the trolls screamed! The trolls ran back to their dungeons. Except for you, serpent, you stay here. The trolls ran all the way back to the dungeon. The serpent dropped her sword. She was furious. She shot blue lightning from her fingertips. Everyone in the kingdom was hypnotized. Their eyes bulged from their heads. Their arms stuck out in front of them like they were sleepwalking. And like zombies, they came down to the lake. For the serpent had enchanted her poison to look like clean water. They knelt down around the water's edge, dipped their hands into the poison, and were slowly bringing it closer to their lips. They were about to take a sip when Queen Evenstar snapped out of it. Queen popped up, said, "Wait a minute, I just realized I've been whistling my tune wrong this entire time." And so the Queen began to whistle like she had never whistled before. Everyone threw the poison back into the lake, which only made the serpent angrier. Now she shot yellow lightning from her fingertips, making the lake look like it was filled with delicious lemonade. Everyone was so thirsty they couldn't help it. They dipped their hands into the poison, they drew it to their lips, they were about to take a sip. But the king stood, and the king said, "Wait a minute, I remember my part of the tune." He played the tune on his horn, and they threw the poison back again. But now the serpent was flaming mad. She shot, do you have a color you like? Red? What does it make the lake taste like? Cherry? Okay. She shot red lightning from her fingertips, making the lake taste like cherry. Nobody could resist the red dye number 30. They dipped their hands into the poison. They drew it to their lips. They opened their mouths wide. They were tilting their heads back, about to take a gulp. But as the music of the king and queen combined, a mysterious wind carried it away. Higher and higher it flew, to the highest mountain peak in all of Middle Earth. And there, at last, in the hour of greatest need, the unicorn heard the music. She stopped to see everyone about to drink the poison, and in a flash stood between the serpent and the lake. The serpent unleashed her fury. Fire surged from her palms, forcing the unicorn back until her back hoof was about to touch the poison. But she refused to yield any further. and in a rage, the serpent lunged to shove the unicorn in, but pierced herself upon the unicorn's horn and fell. Wearily, the unicorn turned to the lake, and with a touch of her horn, it was instantly transformed. No longer was it ugly, oily, polluted water. It had become crystal clear, pure water once again. Everybody dipped their hands into the water to take a drink, and they were instantly revived. They all jumped back from the lake with a cheer. But what did they see looking over their shoulders? It was 3 trolls. Anyways, there were trolls standing there looking very jealous. The trolls put down their swords and shields and came hobbling down to the lake. They said, excuse us, can we use some of their water? We're tired of being stinky and mean. What do you think? Should we let the trolls have a drink? I was down to yes. The trolls came down, they dipped their hands into the water, and they took a drink. And as the waters washed over their tongues, they were instantly transformed. They peeled back their helmets and revealed they were no longer trolls, but the most adorable creatures you've ever seen. Let's hear it for the trolls. Oh, except for you, Serpent, you're still dead. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you gotta die again. There you go. Goodbye. And everyone was so happy that they began to dance. They were hopping up and down, twirling round and round. Oh, wait, what's this? The serpent is still alive and crawling towards the lake. She said, "This water, does it heal wounds too?" She dove into the lake, body and all, and began splashing about. The scales melted off of her back. The scales melted off of her head. And when she popped out of the lake, she was no longer a serpent, but the happiest young lady you've ever seen. She turned to everyone there and said, "Sorry for poisoning your lake. Is there anything I can do to apologize?" Everyone scratched their chins for a moment and smiled at the serpent. They all nodded their heads yes. They said, "Surely, you will be forgiven. On one condition, you must teach us your silly serpent dance." And so she taught them how to dance. Whatever she did with her legs, they did with their legs. Whatever she did with her arms, they followed. Pretty soon they were making up their own silly dances. Yeah, they did the king swing. They did princess pirouette. They did the fox trot and the butterfly pop. And at the end of their celebration, they gathered around the lake, lifted their hands to the stars, and let out the loudest cheer you've ever heard. And they turned to their adoring fans, lifted their hands to the sky once again, and took a great big bow to roars of applause. Thank you so much for bringing our story to life, everybody. And if anyone is wondering how the unicorn